Afternoon and welcome to the Public Safety Committee. I am Mitch O'Farrell, the Vice Chair of this committee. The Chair, Monica Rodriguez, is out today, so I'm standing in for Ms. Rodriguez. I'm joined by Joe Buscaino, and we'll be joined by Mr. Rue momentarily, and that will help us reach quorum. But let's start with the comment cards while we're waiting. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hear all the comment cards, including multiple items and single items and public comment only. And we're going to start with Antonia Ramirez, who filled out multiple. So everyone gets 1 minute for general and then 2 minutes for the combined all other comments. Antonia Ramirez will be followed by Ernie Barnes.
Thank you very much. You talk about wanting to help the homeless crisis, and all we get is either censored or thrown out. I just got thrown out by Buscaino twice. I want to make sure it's on record. We as homeless fight just to speak for 1 fucking goddamn minute, and we can't even get that. If you only knew the hell we go through. I stay at the Grand Park, and that is my home. I have to fight the fucking niggers in the bathrooms, and from theft, vandalism, they urinate on my tent. It's not just the fucking niggers, the gangbangers and the white trash. And because I am now on radar by the politicos, they send their fucking dogs to harass me. They urinate on my tent every fucking night. They vandalize my tent and they harass me. I go to the bathrooms to get ready and prepared at the Music Center Grand Park Blocks 1 and Blocks 4. I get robbed, attacked, and beaten and threatened by fucking niggers. And they also threaten 2 females, threatened to plug up the toilets, niggers, at Block 1 and Block 4. I've notified Music Center police. We also need the Sheriff's Department to patrol the Music Center Blocks 1 and Blocks 4 bathrooms. We got crisis. We got rapes. We got drug addicts. We've got assaults. We've got vandalism. We've got every form of abuse against good women, good people who are homeless, and more keep coming in. And again, we are getting help from nobody, but yet they talk about mental issues and they talk about all these crises that the homeless people are facing, but not one of you are there to help us. You're too busy throwing our fucking asses out. Nobody helps us, but yet if I were a fucking wetback, which I'm not, you're too busy helping the fucking wetbacks, gangbangers, subsidizing their housing and all their needs. Who helps those law-abiding citizens, and who helps the military veterans who are out there hurting, being attacked and robbed by the fucking niggers, fucking wetbacks and gangbangers and fucking white trash? Who helps us? Nobody. Nobody helps us. Yet Buscaino was yelling today. Nobody threw his ass out. And now he talks about 5150. Not everybody's 5150, but you do know how it feels to be munched in by the fucking criminals and the fucking politics. We are munched in between all these elements. And who do we go to? Nobody. We got the mentals and we got the criminals. Who helps us? No one. We have to endure. We're subjected to theft, harassment, abuse, bullying, every form of abuse. And you wonder why I come here and fucking yell? Because I'm pissed. If I had a fucking bazooka, I'd nail every fucking nigger. I'd nail every fucking white trash. I'd nail every fucking gangbanger and every fucking wetback motherfucker who harasses us, steals from us. I spend my money replacing everything. I get robbed or destroyed or vandalized. Who helps us? Nobody. And you wonder why I'm fucking pissed. Yes. I wish you would do something. Get off your fucking high horse.
All right, there we go. Foul Language 101 right here in council chambers. First Amendment rights in action. Our next speaker, we have Ernie Barnes, followed by someone who left a whole title with no name, referring to the Bruins. But Ernie Barnes? Armando Herman. Are you Ernie Barnes today? Armando Herman is Ernie Barnes, one of his many characters. Welcome, Ernie Barnes.
Artist. Now, you all know where I come from, nigga. I come for public comment. But I want to subject you for the record, Miss Jennifer H. Cops of the Moss Court, that the retaliation continues, the intimidation continues. I've been annihilated from public comment this morning in a public meeting regarding HHH. For the record, Miss Jennifer Cops. And when I go back in there to appeal for my documentation, because I'm seeking refuge from that fucking criminal, Mr. T. Fank from the commission, because I plan to have Steve Silberoff get the fuck off the commission because he's a billionaire developer and he's not developing in our community for the budget of HHH. Instead, you're taking money, niggas, and you're giving it to police officers to inappropriately act under 42 U.S.C. 12131/12134 ETSEQ federal law, which you don't have no right. You motherfuckers are not trained to be organized police officer psychiatrists, and the SWAT team is not a psychiatry division. So when I was at the LAPD, for the record, this past Tuesday, I made that announcement when Miss, what's that dumb bitch, vice president, and the other cocksucker, Jew? Yeah, Joe Busquiano knows him because he's a silver-tongued cop. He knows where we come from. Little boozy, MOU, and niggas with attitude is here to stay. That's what Miss Jennifer says. You can draw, you can write, you can make your message clear. Just don't be a part of these motherfuckers who come into your life in retaliation, intimidation, and worst of all case scenario, threaten your motherfucking life. The police department should stop threatening people with mental health. The police department must stop using de-escalation as an enforcement to target people with mental health. So as long as we got fucking criminals like Joe Busquiano and that little bitch O'Farrell up there who cried, for the record, Miss Carol Goodson, there's that bitch up there, O'Farrell, talking about he's going to spend all this money on HHH to remedy the issues on homelessness. Well, I've been homeless since 2012, and no motherfuckers help me. I don't want your help. I don't want your H money, and I don't want shit from all you fucking motherfuckers. Fuck you, 42 U.S.C. 1983, and in interest of the public, as I would say, no place like home. Shove your Lhasa and shove Janice Hunt up your ass, bitch.
All right, our next speaker, Mike Greenspan. Mr. Greenspan, 3 minutes total.
Now, what is...
1 minute for general public
Thank
and then 2 minutes for all your items.
Okay, I'd like to talk about the fireworks thing because it comes up each year, and I guess that must be the least effective unit of the police and fire department because I go to sleep hearing fireworks in my neighborhood. Now, I don't know if any of those people have permits to have these fireworks shows at night, but boy, out there in North Hollywood, we sure have a lot of them, and I've yet to, maybe there's something I don't know, and they're all copacetic and the permits are there. Now, I do have a fight equity with white trash from 5th grade riding on the school bus. The guy said to me, "You're fat," and I said, "You live in a shack," and the next thing I know, we had a fight. He lived in a dilapidated white trash shack, no electricity, no running water, but that was in 5th grade. So, you know, you get into fights with those kind of people. Now, the thing about $25,000 for a social worker. Well, it's in this chambers that Herb Wesson at City Council recommended a psychiatrist for Mr. Herman. And on the day that I had convinced Mr. Herman on December 10th to go to Kaiser Psychiatric in Hollywood, the union goons went on strike. They need to see a crackpot Jewish psychiatrist, not Mr. Herman. After all, they just have to go to the union goons at DWP and borrow a shovel so they can dig up Dr. Hugo's grave. So much for the psychiatrist stuff. And now I see you have these fiscal impact statements. Do we at least give a summary of them where you do have them? And of course, there are no community impact statements. Perhaps we should put not applicable instead of making it look like you half-baked your stuff when it comes out here. Now, for the general public comment, since this is public safety, I like to talk about my favorite officer in the LAPD, Los Angeles Pig Department. He's not here today, but he was on our city council, Mitchell Englander. We sure really hate civil rights and civil liberties. And we sure love sexual harassment to the tune of $75,000 that we paid. Hey, all nice Jewish boys cost their community $75,000 to settle sexual harassment cases, and they have a badge too. I mean, maybe I should call Englander Jew Boy D'Angelo with a badge. I got called a Jewish Johnny Cash in high school because I made fun of Lottie by this redneck who went on to become a professional union boss. And I was just making fun of a hick town in Florida. So, old Jew Boy D'Angelo with the badge, Mitch Englander. He's my favorite pig. Thank you.
Why are those? Exactly. All right, we have Wayne Spindler next. Wayne Spindler, who filled out twice, but it's Wayne Spindler once. So you have 1 minute for general public comment and 2 minutes for all of your others. Wayne Spindler.
It's that. It ain't my name signed up, nigga. So, you see, you got here, anti-firework campaign. You see, the problem with the fireworks is that they always stick the fireworks up Mayor Garcetti's ass and light it. That's why it flies so high all over the city. Everybody have fireworks. Everybody's a motherfucking fireworks expert. Now, what's these motherfuckers gonna do? They got helicopters, they got tanks, they got bombers. And they're still gonna be shooting those fireworks over a rampart between Temple and 6th Street, where they shoot them across the street like missiles. That's right. So go down this weekend and the next weekend, drive down Rampart and get a firework shot up your ass when you're down the street. That's what happened. Number 2, victim advocacy. Fucking victim advocacy is Herb Wesson, because you see, that little Chinese donor, he don't come to meeting no more. Where is that big, fat, fucking cunt Monica Rodriguez? On number 3, she ain't getting her Weingart Foundation money. You got to get your money from the Juju Bear Jews, and we all know Steve Soboroff is the one that gives out the money. He gives it to the greasy-haired Italian motherfuckers. He gives it over to David Rue, the greasy Korean motherfucker. He even gives us some to the faggots with the money left over. That's a big juju bear, because we all motherfucker working for the Jews. That's right. They ain't no goddamn blacks own shit. They ain't no whites own shit. They ain't no Koreans own shit. They ain't even no Chinese. It gotta go through the juju bear. And that's why, fuck the fucking police, fuck the goddamn DA, and fuck everybody in the FBI office over there and that goddamn grand jury. That police commission is money laundering like up the creek, up the ass through goddamn Eric Garcetti's fucking butthole, all the way down and up. They're sucking his dick on one side and putting fireworks up on the other side while they launder all that money. $671 million of HHH juju theft. That's what had happened. You tax the goyim, that's the Jewish word for nigger, and you put the nigger money, the goyim, into the Jew fucking pocket. We get a couple of bucks. I don't even get free coffee anymore at the Starbucks from Mr. T-Peg. So go fuck your budget, go fuck yourself, and fuck the DA.
Patricia McAllister, followed by Eric Previn.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the Public Safety Committee, and the homeless, they need to be protected also. Most of them are hardworking citizens. I saw the police confront a homeless encampment right down the street here, and because they didn't have their tent down. They had their tent up at like noon. Tent is supposed to go down, I think, at 8, and they could take it back up at 6. And he asked the man for his ID. The man was white. He pulled out his wallet. He had money, ID, everything in there, just like a businessman. I said, wow, this is not just a regular bum. This is a responsible man with all his ID, money in the wallet. You know, I had to look. So I just want to let you know that there are some good people out there. Now, this is a motion from Cedilio from this week. He said the city is at risk of losing thousands of affordable housing units through the impending expiration of regulatory covenants. What he's saying is rent control is ending for thousands of units of housing real soon. This council hadn't done a darn thing. He had to write it up. He says many covenants are now reaching an expiration date which would effectively remove affordability requirements and allow an owner to raise rents to market rate. So what you guys did this morning, that 5-hour, I call it, I don't know what it was just a game. You do it every year. You bring LAHSA in. You're not doing your job. Now, I met a man here last week, and he gave me this. And he said, since the management company, PAMA Management, started managing his building, he says he's had problems. He said, due to the fact that this property is under rent control by the city, the legal increase is supposed to be 3% per year. But since then, all of my complaints to investigate this illegal increase has been closed by the city investigator. Now, the PAMA Management Company supervisor told him, he said, quote, these violations will not be corrected and enforced by the city investigators and inspectors because the management company paid too much money to them so that they would keep quiet and not enforce the municipal codes. I know that is going on. A lot of payoff is going on. People are being paid under the table. I know a lot of places where they're not abiding by these rent control laws. And they come right here to City Hall. He was right here in City Hall. He met me in the hall and gave me this. Right here at City Hall, and you guys tell them, oh, nothing we can do. It is something you can do. You're supposed to be regulating this. Now, here's another thing. We got all these illegal aliens. We're supposed to be getting millions of dollars from these street vendors that this council just legalized. You walk down the street, all down Wilshire, they don't have one license. Even this truck right next to the courthouse, they don't have one license, no regulation. You don't have any police out there monitoring this. You're letting these people sell this poison free with no license, giving away millions of dollars. We're going to get you on out of here. We're going to vote Viragosa out of here, too. We're going to recall him.
All right, Eric Previn. 1 minute for general, 2 minutes for all others.
Thank you, Councilmember Bonin. It's Eric Previn, and greetings to Mr. Smith and Mr. Wesson. Good to see you all. I just wanted to say, sir, that $440,000 for David Rue raising so much money for the election in 2020 is excessive. This guy has been phoning it in, to be fair. He also runs a committee upstairs where the public shows up and he literally denies public comment. Now, Buscaino's here today. It's good to see you, sir. I do appreciate the size of your testicles, but to be fair, sir, when the public came down here and sat for 4.5 hours, the cowardly behavior on your part of betraying what the council president promised, that everyone would be heard from, is truly astonishing. I mean, I know you're a loyal guy and you get credit for that, but I mean, in the nicest way, what a horrible thing to do to people, especially on Mr. O'Farrell's very first of the year big fake We Care Day, where his most probing investigation was delicately, and I thought admirably, framed as reunification. Isn't there some way that we can just sort of, and Peter Lynn responded with the appropriate tone, well, we're always trying to find ways to keep people safe and the answer is, of course, deport them out of LA, which I know you all would burst into song if it was appropriate, but it's not. And I will say that the meeting itself was so long that it really started to fight itself, if you're interested in data-driven outcomes. People are unable to take on so much in one big chunk. That's why aggregating, which is the term used to diffuse the public's engagement, didn't work very well today. And fragmenting, which is the other one you do, where you completely cut off possibilities of commenting on individual items, doesn't work very well either. So what I would ask going forward, if you're serious about solving the hashtag national disgrace, is maybe consider apportioning a portion of every meeting to genuine comment on the issues that are before the city, like the homelessness crisis as an example. In my neighborhood, Mr. River O'Farrell, they have the $420,000 has been apportioned for something, but our locals who felt that they were promised $150,000 from Adrien Nazarian, and I know David Rue's an expert on this kind of theft, can't seem to access where it went and why it's being handled individually by CD2. Now, CD2 is a great office. Krikorian, totally gone today, totally insulting. I'm sure he has a good excuse, and I'll feel bad for saying that. But at the end of the day, we can't get one single public toilet with a restroom at the Red Line Universal Station, and we'll go to the Metro tomorrow to make sure we can get it. But to be honest, how are we going to do any of these bigger battles against homelessness if we can't provide a place to go to the public facility? I mean, it's a shame. Cedillo's not here to give his fake layer on, and why don't we leave them open all day long so that it costs too much? A simple place to go to the bathroom would be appropriate, sir. Now, as for Monica Rodriguez, I want to give her credit for not showing up.
Thank you. All right, this is the last card that I have, and so public comment, all comment is now closed, but we have David Guisar, and you will be the last speaker, and it's just general public comment, sir.
Yes.
One minute.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name's David Guisar, and I'm a part of Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice, a network of people who have been harmed, who have experienced harm in throughout the state. I've supported LA, people, and I have, two brothers that have been murdered, one in 1983 and recently in 2012. So we've worked on, expanding the scope of how we're able to reach, people like myself who are oftentimes in communities where we're highly impacted by crime, but have also been impacted by incarceration. So I just wanted to just say that we're here, and we want to continue to be a part of the public safety conversation within the city of Los Angeles, and just, thank you for opening up the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Guisar. You're welcome anytime to give your thoughts and ideas to us. We appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so colleagues, what I'd like to do is take items 2 through 6 on consent, if no objection. That's what we'll do, 2 through 6 on consent, which brings us to, did I need to read those first? Okay, sorry about that. I jumped the gun here. Then we'll take them on consent.
Recommendations of the CAO. For item 3, approve the recommendations of the CAO. For item 4, approve the recommendations of the CAO. For item 5, approve and accept the donation. And for item 6, approve and accept the donation.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So Mr. Buscaino moved, and so that'll be the order on consent, items 2 through 6, which brings us to item number 1.
Item 1 is a discussion item. The Los Angeles Police Department and Los Angeles Fire Department are to report relative to the anti-fireworks campaign.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Very timely, since the 4th of July is just around the corner, and we have Commander Mike Rimkunas from the LAPD, and we have Assistant Chief Robert Nelson from the Fire Department, and David Barrett from My Safe LA. If you gentlemen would like to step forward, please. Welcome, and we appreciate your time today. And please tell us what you know and what you're thinking.
Thank you. Robert Nelson, Los Angeles Fire Department, Homeland Security Division. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. In 2017, Mitchell O'Farrell, you commissioned a motion to establish illegal fireworks working group. What we've done since in 2017 is we put together an anti-fireworks working group with participants that involved the fire department, the police department, My Safe LA. Those are the 3 primary bodies, but we've included LA County Fire, the county sheriffs, Rexon Parks, the LA City Attorney's Office, specifically several prosecutors that have come out, and we've also included LA Unified School District. Some of the efforts that we kind of joined is we meet about every other month, the last 6 months of the year, and then in January going through to July we meet every month, and in June we meet approximately every week. We've created, with the help of My Safe LA, we've created a PSA involving Mayor Garcetti, Mike Feuer, the fire chief, and the police chief that addresses the use of illegal fireworks. We have continued to establish a hotline that allows members to call in and determine where safe fireworks are being displayed. We've taken a hands-on approach with Law and Fire and our nonprofit agencies to send out a consistent message with all the agencies that share on their websites and other social media and other platforms where they can view fireworks in a safe environment. We coordinate with all the jurisdictions around us through the efforts that our work group, and so that everyone knows that we have a common messaging, and we focus on outreach and education. This morning we attended a joint press conference at LA County Fire Department headquarters, where the fire chief and the police chief and the sheriffs and the Grossman Bird Center got up there and discussed the hazards associated with illegal fireworks, and also the efforts that we're making to reduce the amount of fireworks that are in the city. Special efforts that are being made through the work of the fire department and the police department and MySafe LA is we have established all fire stations should be displaying their anti-fireworks material and their banners on their fire stations. We've passed out fireworks material to all of our fire personnel so that they can hand those out at public meetings and events that they're going to. And with the help of MySafe LA, we've produced many documents that will allow that both in Spanish and English, that we can get that message out there. We're also in the process of tracking all of our fire-related incidents. We can probably get into that a little bit better, but we are actively pursuing that along with LAPD. Our PSOs are facilitating a lot of the social media and the public service announcements on Twitter and hashtag and a few other social media outlets that we can get the message out there. We've also encouraged people to go to our websites. We're mirroring all of the county and the city agencies are mirroring the exact same content, so we're trying to make it easy and very consistent, whether you're in the city or in the county. And also the LAFD will establish CERT patrols that will go out and go to the high brush fire areas and patrol. And we've talked to our CERT members, and they say that's been very effective, where when they're patrolling, people stop or they move or they just stop doing what they're doing. As long as they're in the area, they will reduce their activities. We think that's a very effective message. I'm going to turn over to the police department and let them share the things that they've been doing.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. So consistent with the fire department, I first have to say I'm sitting in for Commander George Rodriguez, who was the lead for the LAPD side on this. But I got to say the partnership with the LA Fire Department and my Safe LA with Dave Barrett has been outstanding since 2017. From the law enforcement side, we've taken a concentrated effort of identifying locations. There is a web-based system that has been implemented that's been put on all of the department's websites to allow the general public to make complaints, or if they have complaints about fireworks, that they can go onto this portal, a firework complaint portal, and generate a complaint in a certain location. So what we've done from the police department side is evaluate the chronic complaints, the chronic locations, which has given us areas of concern, so we can do preemptive strikes prior to 4th of July, so we can identify certain areas in South, in the 4 different bureaus of the city, and we can take a proactive approach with our senior lead officers, our community partners. We've been talking about this for probably half a year now, or probably since February, just to educate the public about how to enter the portal, how to make the complaint. We've partnered with the city attorney's office to send out notification letters to chronic locations that we've identified since 2017. So just from a numbers side of it, from 2017, there was 1,880 firework-related calls. In 2017. In 2018, there was 3,542. So you can see the drastic, almost a 1,660 call difference, which then we can direct resources to, that we can focus our attention to, so we can be better equipped to respond and prevent the illegal fireworks.
And Commander Rimkunis, when you talk about going out in the field essentially with senior lead officers, does that mean you knock on the doors of homes or locations where there have been multiple complaints of people shooting off fireworks and M80s and all that fun stuff?
Correct, sir. So we've identified the top 5% in each bureau, and we've asked our senior lead officers and our community resource officers to go out to the public, to go out to those locations and make contact with business owners, because a lot of them are industrial parts of the different parts of the city, but to
But a
make
lot of them are residential. Like in my own neighborhood, there's a
Correct.
few locations. And when the constituent makes that call, who do they phone?
So they can call 311, or they can get on the portal. So we've been educating, and they can make a complaint through the portal. Then that gets routed through communications division, which then goes to a watch commander account at our 21 geographic areas. Then that gets generated as a call, which then can be handled by our Z units. On 4th of July, we do have a lot of folks working, and we have extra deployments. So then we have different teams that are assigned to firework type of radio calls. Then that can be distributed through the watch commander to those units to handle quickly and effectively.
So if an address and the characteristics of the problems that are listed in the complaint, they go into a hopper, and then that information gets relayed to the field, and they go and knock on a door.
They would go to, so the call would be generated. If there's an exact location, then we've asked our officers working that shift to go out and make contact with that owner. And a lot of it is prevention and education, and we have the option to cite and arrest and do that based on quantities of fireworks that are obtained. But a lot of it is informative, and but obviously if there's large houses of fireworks, we're going to arrest the owner and take appropriate action. That's not the ideal way to do it, but if we have a chronic location that has a lot of illegal fireworks, we're not going to just leave without doing something.
It's partial peer pressure from a neighbor as well, right? If a neighbor who's causing all the trouble by shooting off fireworks, and usually it starts before the 4th of July or before New Year's even, then if they learn that a lot of the surrounding neighbors don't look too kindly on that, then that exerts a certain type of peer pressure, perhaps.
Absolutely, sir. And I believe Dave Barrett is the lead on this, and they've been working on this, I think, at the end, July 17th, July 17th, they start the new campaign for the new year of education and bringing in for information and analyzing data and locations and things. So we're constantly working on it. Dave's team's done a great job of including the fire department and the police department with specific locations and improving our systems and things so we can do it better each year.
Thank you. And when we brought this to Mr. Barrett, he took it and has run with it. So we really appreciate that. And now, Dave, if you would like to add to this conversation.
Sure. I think if you remember when we started talking about this in the late summer of 2017, there were just a few individuals who were engaged in making this happen. And in our monthly meetings relative to helping the community, remember, this is not about suppressing anything other than injury, death, and loss of property. This is about helping people understand their options to have fun and enjoy the 4th of July without creating chaos in their own environment. And now some of these collaborative meetings have got as many as 25 people attending, agency reps from a number of different places. I think everyone has agreed that education is central to the process, and in our collaboration with multiple council offices providing information and sharing how this works, we're finding some really, really important things. Out of thousands and thousands of elementary school children that we visited in just the past 2 months, 90% of them do not realize that fireworks are illegal. And when they hear that, they're quite surprised. One of the great issues is we'll bring a fire company with us on occasion, we'll bring a senior lead officer with us, we'll bring a city neighborhood prosecutor, and it's not intimidating to the kids. They're interested. They want to know about it. The biggest challenge is that more than half of them say, it doesn't matter what I think, my parents have already purchased fireworks. So this is part of an education issue. It's part of a cultural issue. But there are behind-the-scenes things taking place as well. More than 5,500 pounds of fireworks have been confiscated in the city so far this year, as of a couple of weeks ago. Last year, 8,800 pounds were confiscated. I think that could be topped this year. LA County has made substantial arrests relative to the trafficking of fireworks. They actually have undercover folks in various places, not only in this state, but elsewhere. And they collaborate for across the state transportation of illegal fireworks, which becomes a felony and is a little easier to prosecute. So from the prosecution side, we're looking at the distribution issues. From the local area, we're trying to use education as a carrot and to encourage people to go to see legal in terms of the preparation and distribution and licensing, and fun fireworks shows. One item of note, there are only 68 licensed pyrotechnic close-up experts in the state of California. So that limits the number of shows that can take place. And I would note that the LA City Fire Department, LA County Fire Department, LAPD, and My Safe LA websites all have information that is synced. It's all coordinated. We have meetings about same phone numbers, same hashtags, same information overall, and I think this is not something that is completed in 1 or 2 years, but there's definitely progress. The last thing I'll share is that as it relates to that, the big uptick in radio, in 311 and calls for service to LAPD, directly aligned with the areas in which we focused most of our energy in schools. So I think there is some coordination in terms of people realizing that there's someone they can call, and there's a process to follow that does not necessarily involve 911. And as a result, I think the community at some point is going to get much better service, and we're going to see a reduction in the use of illegal fireworks.
I really like the outlook in your approach, and that is educate everyone on how fireworks can be fun when they're viewed from a safe distance, and that a friendly approach as opposed to a critical approach and shaming. Have you thought about when you go out to visit schools or groups to bring along someone from LA Animal Services as well? One thing that we know, and you can take the message as well as far as the animals that end up lost and confused and traumatized every 4th of July, and sometimes the days leading up to it, and New Year's, including my own dog that we have to really hunker down and take care of because of the explosions.
Right, so the answer to that is that animal services in the city of LA is greatly understaffed. However, in our presentations, after explaining that all fireworks are illegal and that we love to go see fireworks show, we ask our kids who hates fireworks. And the next slide is of a dog. And we talk about how many pets run away and are never reunited. Some are. How the city's shelters are overrun. And then we ask who else hates fireworks. And the next slide is of a veteran. And the kids seem to really react strongly. They all love their pets. They don't want to see them gone and lost. And surprisingly, not in the fact that they understand this, but the quantity of our kids that understand the value of our veterans. And so those are two very strong messages. I appreciate the council member bringing up the issue of pets, because it is one of the leading touch points in helping them understand that they should leave fireworks to the professionals.
Sounds like your visuals will do the trick.
Yes, sir.
That sounds great. All right, gentlemen, now, excuse me, I have a number of questions that I'm going to kind of go through and eliminate some of them, actually. And some of them our colleague Monica Rodriguez has asked me to ask. So, Mr. Buscaino or Mr. Rue, would you like to engage while I go through these? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your presentation. It appears that every year we have this dialogue and discussion of outreach, prevention, and enforcement. What role does CompStat FireStat play in the addressing of the illegal fireworks in the city?
Well, from a generic standpoint, from the FireStat perspective, is we collect and track. Beginning in 2017, we start tracking all our fireworks-related calls. A little bit of a challenge for us is that when a lot of the calls come into the fire side of the house, they're generally medical related and or they may be fire related, but not necessarily, we don't know at that time that they're as a result of fireworks. So we're working through that process right now as to we can better capture that data. If it comes into our Metro dispatchers and they know it's fireworks on the onset, then it's easy to track and record that. But some of those calls, it's only known after the fact, and then we're in a process of collecting that data after the fact from the fire stat. And then we get that data, and this group, this body will analyze that data. We share it with our law enforcement partners to determine where our pocket areas are, our most critical areas. I can tell you the data that we've collected so far is that there's no one specific area in the city that we determined as is a hotbed from a fire and EMS perspective. They're all equally in the same paradigm with numbers. So I don't have an area that I can focus on the fire department per se.
Yeah, and on the PD side, CompStat, I don't know what we do. We use previous years for deployment, calls for service, and what do we do those numbers? Because I can clearly tell you in San Pedro where it goes off. But I don't just want to see what we're doing to address the deployment and calls for service.
So in this case, sir, from 2017, I think the process from the LAPD side has gotten a lot better. So with the generating of radio calls, Office of Operations, has drilled down from 17 to 18 to identify top 5% locations. So you have locations and then chronic or top 5 areas like RDs, and then top 5 locations. So specifically, each bureau has been identified with the number of calls, and within that bureau, there's been a top 5 location mark, and then the Office of Operations has then farmed that out to the senior lead officers, to the captains, to specifically go to those locations that have been identified for the firework-related radio calls. And so I think the process is still improving, but at least it's a better starting point than the department has ever had to take that proactive approach to address the problematic locations that you've identified.
And Commander, out of those top 5%, of these locations that have been identified, how many arrests have been made in those top 5% locations?
So we were looking at the arrest, or I have not received the arrest numbers, but that was a request that has been submitted as of yesterday to bring to your attention. So I do not have those numbers, but we're in the process of looking at actual arrests and citations.
Okay. And for My Safe LA, thanks so much for your efforts, and I'm really pleased what you're doing with our kids. I think you ought to give that same presentation to their parents and adults who tend to completely just not abide by our rules and our laws in the city. They have been very frustrating. And when people witness individuals using fireworks illegally, and I just got approached this the other day, what's direction should we give them as far as what they should do? I know I hear a lot of sentiment from my constituents that it's very hard for LAPD and LAFD to catch the knucklehead in the act, but I think dissuades people from making the calls in the first place because they put their hands in the air and say no one's going to come out anyway, nothing's going to happen. I'm going to assume our message continues to be, if you don't call it, it didn't happen, correct?
One thing that I can share with you is that we try and encourage everyone to make sure that they don't just say there's fireworks in front of my house or down the street. By the time a radio call is generated and a unit arrives on scene, it's over, or it's not there. And if they're unable to locate, if it's ETL, then they're just going to have to move on to the next call. So we encourage everyone to try and get an exact address. We encourage people to say as much as they possibly can. Remember, there's multiple channels now, which never existed before, to share concerns about fireworks. So one of them is if you see fire, if you see life or property in danger, we tell people to call 911, right? The secondary issue is that there are now complaint forms that people can file if they just simply want to say, hey, I live in this area and it's bad. And the third thing is that the 311 app that the LAPD offers, they're able to create cyclical short-term messaging or updates, and effective tomorrow through the 8th of July, people will be able to use the 311 app to report fireworks. In addition, as it relates to your comment about educating adults, we take that to heart, and it's going to be much more of an issue as long as there's funding to support it. What we were able to accomplish this year is to do a training of senior lead officers from our shop and provide them with 10,500 flyers initially, and hopefully another 10,000 tomorrow. And they're going door to door, knocking on things and spreading the word.
Sure.
So I think we're getting more and more people engaged, sir. And the result is that there's more awareness, which will hopefully lead to less use.
Appreciate the effort. And lastly, Mr. Chair, if I can, this is similar to the discussion we had on homelessness, our neighboring cities allow safe and sane fireworks.
39 of them.
What's that?
39 of them.
Correct. And this is part of the challenge in the city of Los Angeles, where all types of fireworks are banned. These safe and sane fireworks tend to spill over into our city. So the challenge here continues to exist among the city and our stance versus what we see on the other side of the street in neighboring cities. For me, it's Carson, as well as a lot of my residents go into Carson, get the safe and sane fireworks, and then bring them over, and then people just get irritated and fed up over it. So I know more state intervention, but
one thing to comment about that is most of these 39 cities are starting to become very serious about illegal fireworks with street lighting machines and other kinds of banners, saying that they're very serious about about enforcement overall related to rockets and things that
I would
fly
like
in
to
the
actually hear from the fire department, how many ER visits or calls for service do we get on safe and sane fireworks? When I first landed here, there's an opportunity to look at legalizing safe and sane fireworks in the city of LA. Do they really take a hit on our residents?
The data shows from last year that it's for each bureau, it's in 3 or 4 people per bureau are having some sort of injury as related to fireworks. I don't know that we can differentiate between whether they're illegal or safe and sane at this point. It's a good question, though.
I'd like to hone in on that.
Because when we
prepare.
transport them, we know that it's a firework-related injury, but I don't know that anyone has the forethought to think, was it legal or illegal?
Can we have the EMTs add a question, what type of firework were you using?
Yeah, I think that's something we can certainly explore. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure. Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And first and foremost, I really want to thank LAPD, LAFD, and MySafeLA for doing this. Not just during the 4th of July, but all throughout the year. And of course, last year was very, very successful. You guys had a great campaign. And I know you did social media, multiple collaterals, a video message from the mayor, and I'm sure you're going to do all of that again this year, right?
That's correct.
So, and in my district, I represent so many hillsides. Fireworks and just fire safety is a huge concern in my district. And of course, it's even more of an urgency during times like 4th of July or New Year's Eve and things like that. And many of my hillside communities in Council District 4 would love to participate. I think you did it last year. Will all of these collaterals like yard signs or anything you have information, can they be picked up possibly at a local fire station, or how do they pick it up?
Well, we can certainly make the flyers available to them at any fire station. All the fire stations have been delivered, and police stations have the flyers that have that information. This is the first, I think last year was the first time in our city history where every single fire and police station displayed an anti-fireworks banner. And I believe, and I'll let Dave talk about it, but MySafeLA has all the information for printing out yard signs and creating them. And Dave, you want to talk about that?
We do.
Perfect.
Seriously, if people visit our website, they can download the art for a yard sign that says "Let's leave fireworks to the professional." It's not so much "I hate my neighbor." It's more about respect your neighbors, and instructions on how to make their own yard sign, or likewise how to take it to a FedEx Kinko's and have them make it for you, because that is a service FedEx Kinko's sells, and it's like $19. It's not expensive. Relatively speaking, it's not expensive.
So there is no pre-made yard signs, though?
We're not giving out yard signs currently, strictly from a budget perspective, but the art is available as our instructions, and we are utilizing social media. All 3 agencies that are up here, as well as LA County Sheriffs and LA County Fire, are all sharing information about that exact process.
So I'm sure you have an email or something already set up, right?
Yes, sir.
So we'll follow up, and we'll like to include that on our next news blaster, and I'm sure all the other colleagues might as well. And one last question. You did talk about how for the illegal fireworks, for the sale of it or for the use of it, you're going to have, depending on the severity, you could arrest or have tickets and fines. Is there a different scale for the use or sale of fireworks in very high fire severity zones?
No, that's a good question. I believe it's just based on quantity and what type of fireworks. And if, for instance, if one house in one part of the city has a mass amount of fireworks, we would treat that the same as a house on the hillside, at least from the LAPD perspective. But it's the type of firework, M80s, et cetera, big explosive devices that really set the tone of which way we're going to go, whether it's going to be a citation, a physical arrest, and the quantity. And the amount sort of dictates how we're going to handle that at this point.
Even if we could do it this year, great. But even if we can't, can we consider? We'd love to work with you, whether we have to sponsor a motion or whatever it takes. We'd love to work with you to see how we could maybe add an extra penalty or extra something in high fire zones.
No, that's great for the committee to take back, and we're all on board to try to make things better, and that's a great point. So we can look at that for next year.
I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you want to make that a report back or however you want to address that.
I think we can just talk about dropping a motion and then getting a report back from that.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rue. So, Mr. Barrett, you talk about, and Mr. Buscaino talked about educating the parents as well. What sent me over the edge in the summer of 2017 on the 4th of July was observing a neighbor down my street, living on the corner, who shot off an M80 with their stroller and a baby in it right next to them. And man, did I chew them out. And that was that experience, that plus just the 4th of July of 2017, I sensed something really had changed. Maybe it was a year where we had just a flood of illegal fireworks that saturated the LA market. I'm not sure what it was, but my neighborhood, for the first time, it seemed like it was on fire, and you could barely breathe the air because the sulfur was so thick everywhere. So I went to Sacramento, met with the state fire marshal, got an education on essentially the missiles and bombs that are proliferating or were at that point. So I will say that anecdotally, it seems to have lessened since then. Now we have a few addresses in the distance from where I live, just use my house as an example, my neighborhood, that have been shooting off fireworks here and there from the same locations over the last week, 2-3 weeks. But it doesn't seem nearly as bad as it was. So that's my sort of anecdotal take on this. But that leads into, I've narrowed this down to 4 questions. Do we have all the technology tools that are needed to track these calls and compare to prior years to see how effective the campaign is as well?
I think that's a good question for all 3 participants. From our perspective, we do an annual survey, which is available through all 15 council offices as well, to get input related to that exact issue. How bad is it in your neighborhood? How bad is it in your council district? And the information varies depending on where people live. We then compare what we get in each survey to previous surveys, and we share that with our partners. But that's what we're doing is more of a research endeavor, not a response endeavor. And both fire and law can share with you what happens from a law perspective and a fire perspective.
I think, council member, I think that the technology is certainly going to allow us to get more efficient as we move through time, and we're currently working through our IT office to upgrade some of our CAD capabilities, and we're going to incorporate a fireworks component into that. I'm not a technician, so I'm not sure what that looks like at this point, but I know that we're actively working on it, and I believe that that will help us be better at analyzing the data. In the meantime, we are collecting as much data as we can, and we're trying to analyze it, and Dave Barrett and what he brings to the table also is a good focus of ours. And we're working with our CompStat people and our IT people at LAPD, and cohesively, when we look at all the data and we compile it, and we don't have a lot of years yet, but I think in the coming years we're going to end up with a lot of data that we can really target specific areas, target our outreach program through MySafeLA, which I think they're doing a tremendous job. I think the common messaging, the outreach efforts that we're doing, and the combined effort from all of our allied agencies is really, I'm seeing a drop, but it's a perception. I don't know that it's actually quantifiable at this point. I think you would probably agree, and we'll see this year if all of our efforts are making a dent in the progress.
You know, from LAPD side, like I mentioned earlier, I think we've taken great steps in the right direction of identifying, you know, we have it broken down through basic RDs to top 5% locations within each bureau to identify locations. And just that alone, I believe is going in the right direction, because now we can do preemptive strikes on chronic locations. Now, whether it's perfect or not, I'm not sure. But as you can see, from 17 to 18, we've jumped to about 1,600 calls, which in my opinion is a good thing, because we have more people reporting. We have people now with easy access to a site to identify suspects, identify locations, you know, and even on this portal you can say, you know, are you on a hillside in the areas of where you live, that can really direct our responding officers to be pinpoint and exact to identify the offenders that are firing the fireworks. I've never seen it before. I think this group has done great work from 17, and I'll be interested as we move through 19 to see what the numbers yield. But it's all steps in the right direction, and the preemptive strikes with our senior leads and pre-meetings and education campaign, you know, has been outstanding.
Terrific. And as far as the reporting on all the collateral that you're publishing and then offering for people to then print themselves, are all of the different ways to report complaints on that collateral? The portal, 311,
yes.
Ask LAPD.
Most of those things are. The only thing that's not in the collateral is the new complaint form, which is very recent.
Okay.
But it will be in future.
And did you already get that to our office, David? Our offices, the new complaint
Every
form?
office has received, all 15 offices have received digital copies of those materials, a link to be able to insert the public service announcement, and activities that have taken place from the education point of view.
Okay, so we can get those out like in our newsletters.
They could go out
et cetera.
tomorrow. I mean, you've had them for a few days.
Perfect. Thank you.
The offices have.
That's awesome. What are the penalties for illegal fireworks? I heard felony. I suppose it depends on the magnitude of the...
Cross-state is felony.
Okay, cross-state.
Or a certain quantity, yeah.
What about if someone shoots off what is all, for all practical purposes, a missile or a bomb, but they're calling it a firework? Is that just a misdemeanor?
It would be a misdemeanor with an arrest if it's an M80, probably with a decent fine. I don't know what the fine would be, but so that would be an extreme case. If you have just a basic person just letting fireworks go, you can give them like an A citation that comes with a city attorney type of fine, and then that can turn into a misdemeanor and warrant, etc. So the penalties are not that significant.
There's an opportunity right there. I mean, if you're shooting off a bomb, I can't imagine why it's just a misdemeanor. But about how many arrests do you make for shooting off M80s around this time of the year?
So we'll have to get that. You know, I might, if I can turn to our bomb squad folks, because
yeah, just out of curiosity, I just think it's interesting because we know that they go off in some places on a regular basis. Oh, you can go ahead and grab a microphone, sir. Yeah.
Sorry for putting you on the spot, but he would respond to the bomb squad.
I'm just, out of curiosity, it'd be fascinating to find out.
And, you know, in many of these circumstances, there's, and unfortunately in our line of work, by the time police respond, suspects are gone. So the arrest numbers tend to be pretty low for actually setting them off. Normally what's happening in most of the situations is officers are coming across people in possession of them and confiscating and enter citations for actually possessing. But truly, as the commander was saying, the repercussions, the fines, et cetera, are all very low.
Set by the state.
Well, that's for transportation, for interstate transportation, but when you deal with possession, I mean, you really need in the neighborhood of because the way fireworks are quantified in weight is a lot of it's packaging and so forth when you recover it. So there's calculations to try to determine a rough weight, and it's somewhere about 5,000 pounds of fireworks need to be possessed for it to cross into a felony crime of possession. So it's very rare to ever see a felony possession charge for this type of thing. The M80s they refer to are known as illegal explosive devices. They used to be wobblers. It depends on the nature of how it's being used, et cetera, if it's been altered, if it's been turned into an improvised explosive device or destructive device. But generally, the repercussions and fines are generally pretty low. As far as number of arrests, not a whole lot.
Well, suppression sounds like the best way to go and continue the outreach. Another question, what happens when fireworks are confiscated? What is the storage and disposition process?
Okay, so as it is now, all fireworks recovered, at least in LA, the bomb squad ultimately recovers. So throughout the year, patrol division comes across fireworks, confiscates fireworks, they'll notify us. Anything safe and sane can be booked in a normal property. Anything that's not safe and sane, which is pretty much how we explain anything that flies or explodes, is illegal anywhere in the state of California. We ultimately take them, we store them in storage facilities that we have that are temporary storage until we can ultimately pass them on to the state fire marshal. The state fire marshal then ultimately takes those, and they have to pay to actually get them transported out of state to Louisiana, because there are a lot of EPA rules against, the only way to dispose of these is to burn them. And so burning them causes, pollution, et cetera. So unless it's an emergency situation, we have to hold them, pass them off to the state fire marshal. Now bear in mind, the state fire marshal's dealing with fireworks from the entire state. So I think we reached out to them last week. We currently have about 5,000 plus pounds stored up to date this year. And as of last week, they had about 60,000 pounds in the local storage that they're storing. And so with their budget, they're constantly trying to get, more money for transportation storage, because they have to ultimately pay to have this stuff disposed of out of state.
Gives you a sense of the challenges in dealing with all this. And that's the state fire marshal explained all of that to me in over a 2-hour period in a meeting I had up there. So it's pretty intense. All right, well, thank you. So colleagues, any further questions? So here are the recommendations. Request the LAPD and the LAFD report back to this committee next year, prior to Independence Day, and provide an after-action report on the results of the anti-fireworks campaign, including any impacts of the plan, comparison of data from prior years, and recommendations for improvement. And furthermore, ask the LAFD to enhance their CAD system to add the appropriate tools to better track firework-related calls. And these are the recommendations by our chair that I'm sitting in for. And with no objection, that shall be the order. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for keeping us safer. We appreciate it. And I believe that was the last item. Yes, that clears the desk. Clears the desk. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.